I have my Excel file here that contains parcel IDs for various shipments, as well as the corresponding notes for each ID. What I've done is I've created a automation flow in Power Automate, which allows me to enter any given parcel ID and retrieve the notes of that parcel ID without having to open Excel and look at this table, or without having to open Power Automate either. So here's my flow in Power Automate. And if I close the Excel file and if I run the flow, let's see what it asks. So I can just press run over here. And as you can see, it gives me an input dialog box where I can enter the parcel ID. So I know that in my Excel file, there is a parcel ID 7103. So I'm going to enter that. And what I'm expecting is that parcel, the note should say that it's held at the depot because that's what it says in the Excel file. So I'm going to press OK and let's see if it could retrieve that information for us. So as you can see, we get that dialog box that says that indeed the parcel is held at the depot. So that means that this flow was able to locate the parcel ID within our Excel file and then find the corresponding notes and return those notes to us. And what's even more fascinating is that we can automate this flow even further and set up a keyboard shortcut. So that means that I can close Power Automate and I can set up a keyboard shortcut. So for me, it's Control, Shift, and Q. And as you can see, the flow will run by itself in the background. And as you can see, once again, we get that dialog box. So I'm going to show you how to create this flow in Power Automate and then how to add a keyboard shortcut so that we don't have to manually go into Power Automate and run this flow. If you're doing a task where you need to enter a certain piece of information and quickly retrieve corresponding information, this is a great method that you can use, and it only takes a few minutes to set up. So let's go ahead and let's show you how we can set up this Power Automate flow. So I'll first go ahead into Power Automate. I'm using the desktop version of Power Automate, and I'll go into New Flow and I'll name this Shipment Information, and then I'll press Create. Now I've also opened up my Excel file on the side so we can use it as a reference as we're making our flow. And the first thing we want to do is we want the user to see a dialog box where they can enter the shipment ID, the parcel ID. And then once they enter the parcel ID, of course, they will retrieve the notes of that parcel ID as well. So first of all, I want to display a dialog message box. So I'll search up display input box. And so it's going to be a box where we can write down a message. It prompts the user to enter a text as it says over here. And we want to write down over here for the title, I'll just call it parcel ID. And the message I want it to ask is, please enter the parcel ID. And then the input type will be a single line where they can just write down the parcel number. And now it's asking for the variables produced. So we want to keep these variables fairly meaningful. So I'm going to call this user input ID, and I'm going to press save. So now whatever the user enters into that dialog box, it's going to be stored into the variable user input ID. So let's say that the box comes up and I enter 2363 for this row over here. Then that number 2363 will be stored as user input ID in Power Automate. Now, the second thing I want to do is I want to look for this value that we've entered in our dialog box in our Excel file. So in order to do that, we need to launch Excel. So we need to launch that specific Excel file. So I'm just going to select launch Excel, and then it's going to be a specific file, and that Excel file is going to be the one that is right over here. So I'm going to locate that file and I'm going to put it down in the document path, and then I'm going to open it back up over here to get the file path. For make instance visible, I'm going to close that because I don't want to see this happening. And then the variables produced, I'm just going to call it shipment tracker file, and that's just so that this name is meaningful, and I'll go ahead and save that. Now I want to read from the Excel file and extract the data table within the Excel file. So I'm going to go ahead into read from Excel file, read from Excel worksheet, And shipment tracker file, that's the instance right over here. And we want to read the entire worksheet. We only have one table in that worksheet. The first line of range contains column names because in our Excel file, the first line is the column headers. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and save this as a variable name. So I will call it data table, and I'll save that. And now once we've read from the Excel, we can go ahead and close the Excel file just to save system resources. And it's also a crucial step to close the Excel file. Otherwise, it might always stay open in the background, and that might corrupt the Excel file. So I'm going to go ahead and find the action close Excel file, and I will bring that down as well. To close this Excel file, we don't need to save it. And now what I want to do is for each row within my Excel file, I want to look for the number that was entered in that input dialog box. And then once we find the matching number, I want to retrieve the notes of that corresponding number and return those to the user in a dialog box. So what I'll do is I will introduce a for each loop, and then this will ensure that I can go through every row within my Excel table. And what I want is the data table. So I'll double click that, and I'm going to store the data table each and every row into a instance that I'll call current row. And once that's saved, it's going to go through each row in the data table, and for each row it's going to call it current row as it's going down. Now my condition is that if the user input the number that they've entered as the parcel ID, if it matches any of the parcel IDs over here, I want to return the notes. So for that, what I'll do is I will introduce an if function, and I'll put that inside my loop here. And if the user input over here is equal to our current row, and within our current row, we're looking for a specific column, which is the parcel ID column. So it's called parcel underscore ID. So I'm going to add square brackets here and single quotations here. And within that, I'll write down parcel underscore ID. So now it's going to look for my user input, whatever parcel ID I put, and it's going to look for the current row and this column over here, column A, parcel ID, and it's going to do that comparison. If there is a match, then what I want to do is I want to set a variable and take the corresponding notes of that number and give them a set variable name. And this will start to make more sense as we go down the steps. And what I'll go ahead and do is I'm going to write down set variable as my next action, and I'll bring that down inside this if function as well. And what I'll do is I will call this parcel notes just so that the name is meaningful. And the value of this is going to be the current row once again, but it's going to be not the parcel ID, but the notes of that current row. So in my case, this is the title, notes. So I'm going to go ahead and current row, square brackets, single quotes, and within that I'm going to write down notes, and I'm going to save that. Essentially, if the dialog box, once it comes up, if I enter a parcel ID that matches one of these parcel IDs, then the corresponding notes will be saved as a variable called parcel notes. Now this is the variable I want to see in my display message to show me the notes of that corresponding parcel. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag down a display message action right below this one, and inside it I'm going to choose the parcel notes, the instance that I just created up above, and I'm going to call this parcel information, and I'm going to save that. So now essentially what's happening is that it is identifying, it's looking at my entered parcel ID, it's comparing it to the parcel IDs in my Excel file, and then if there is a match, it's finding the notes of that parcel ID, saving those in parcel notes, and then it's showing me those parcel notes in my display message. Let's try to run this flow and let's see if it works. So I'm going to press play here. Now it's asking me for the parcel ID, so I know that in parcel ID 5367, that's the first one in my Excel file, and I know the status is that it's received in the Winnipeg warehouse. So I'm going to press OK, and let's see if it is able to retrieve that information for us. So as you can see, it was able to find that information using the lookup and find out the status of that parcel using our Excel file. So now this flow is running, and now all we need to do is find a shortcut for this so that we're not having to constantly go to Power Automate and play the flow. So in order to do that, what I'll do is, first of all, I'll make sure it's saved, and then I'll exit and go to the main page of Power Automate. Now I'm going to give this a shortcut. So I'm going to go into Properties, and I'm going to give this a Control Shift and Q shortcut, and I'm going to save that. So essentially now I can press Control Shift and Q, and it'll prompt me to enter the parcel ID and give me the parcel corresponding notes as well. So I'm going to close this Power Automate here, and just on my main screen I'm going to press Control Shift and Q, and as you can see, the flow is starting to run, and as you can see, I get the prompt to enter the parcel ID. So I'll enter in 4506, which is one of my IDs from my Excel file, and I'll press OK. And as you can see, we get the corresponding notes from the Excel file of that parcel ID. So that's how we can use Power Automate to look up a certain value in our Excel file using something similar to a VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP, and return the corresponding information without us having to go into Excel and look at it ourselves, or even to use Power Automate to run the flow. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please do like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave them down below, and I hope to see you soon on the next video.